He told me, and this was yesterday, that 8 days ago, so I guess 9 days ago from today, he was moved to another detention center in Santa Ana, where the conditions are better. But he said despite the better conditions, he still has no access to any news from the outside world and no ability to communicate with anybody in the outside world.
So Senator Chris Van Hollen has given us all an update on his meeting with Abrego Garcia, and I'm going to play some clips from that today, as well as showing you how that the Trump administration and the president of El Salvador is trying to twist and manipulate this story and completely gaslight the audience. And I always say when it comes to this case that what we're fighting for and the reason why we're bringing awareness to this story is because we believe that everyone, every person, which is what the Constitution says, should be given their due process. That's what we want to see. And so we're going to continue to cover this story. And we really hope to see Garcia return to the United States and have his due process here. That's all we're out for. But I was glad to hear that Garcia is doing okay. And in this first clip, we're going to show you what Van Hollen said that Garcia had to say about his family. Take a look.
When I told him that his wife and family sent their love and were fighting for Kilmar's return home every day, he said that he was worried about all of you. That was his response. How are you dealing with this horrible ordeal and nightmare for the family? He said that thinking of you, members of his family, is what gave him the strength to persevere, to keep going day to day, even under these awful circumstances. He spoke several times about your 5-year-old son who has autism. 5-year-old son who was in the car in Maryland when Kilmar was pulled over by U.S. government agents and handcuffed.
You know, I really can't imagine what it would be like to be pulled over and taken away with your family sitting back watching and your 5-year-old autistic child in the car living through something that horrific. So my heart truly does go out to his family. And again, we just hope to see him return to the States soon and get his due process here. But now I want to focus in on this part of the story because I'm the type of person that I don't like it when someone is spinning something and it's easily debunked. You know, there's a lot of misinformation that gets spread on both sides. I'm not saying that our side's never been guilty of it, but I will say that anytime our side's done it, I've always saw them take accountability 10-1 over MAGA. They never take any accountability for any of it. And so I'm going to play you this clip here of Van Hollen. He's talking about the margaritas that were sitting on the table. Now, this clip is a little bit longer than I would normally let them go, but I think it's very important you watch the whole thing so you can see just how they're trying to stage this to make Garcia, Van Hollen, and everyone involved look bad. Take a look at this.
I don't know if you guys have been following this, but President Bukele, after I met with Kilmar, did this tweet showing us at a table with these 2 glasses. So here's what happened. When I first sat down with Kilmar, we just had glasses of water on the table. I think maybe some coffee. And as we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited 2 other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us. And if you want to play a little Sherlock Holmes, I'll tell you how you can know that. So if you look at the video or the picture I sent out from the beginning of our meeting, you'll see there are no glasses on the table. So you'll see in later videos they are on the table. But they made a little mistake. First, some people are very careful, right? If you sip out of one of those glasses, some of whatever it was, salt or sugar, would disappear. You would see a gap. There's no gap. Nobody drank any margaritas or sugar water or whatever it is. But this is a lesson into the lengths that President Bukele will do to deceive people about what's going on. And it's also shows the lengths that the Trump administration and the president will go to, because when he was asked about a reporter about this, he just went along for the ride. So the White House and the president have been lying about this case from the beginning. They've been trying to change the subject from the beginning. As I said, and the courts have said, from the Supreme Court to the Fourth Circuit to the District Court, what this is about is adhering to the Constitution, to the right of due process. That's right. And that's why we say, bring Kilmar home, so he can be afforded his rights under the Constitution. That's what this is about.
First of all, I wouldn't have took a sip off of anything that was sitting on that table. Second, it just goes to show how far they're willing to go to spin this story. And people will sit there and pass this around as though it's gospel and say that we're all on the side of a criminal here. That's not the case. And just to show you that what Van Hollen said is true, here's a shot of the image, and you can see here on the table. Now, here's what's supposed to be the margaritas. You can see, just like he said, they've got the one closest to Garcia, not quite as full. And over here is Van Hollen's. They both still have the cherry on top. I'm more of a lime guy myself, so I wouldn't have touched it if they had brought it. But you can see there's no break in the seal of that salt or sugar or whatever that is around the rim. And I know for a fact when you drink margaritas, those seals get broken, and you can see that they weren't. And it just goes to show you how far they will go to spin a story. But it's not just the president of El Salvador that is trying to stage this to create a new narrative. It's also the president of the United States who shared this image. I want to read to you also what he posted along with it. He said, this is the hand of the man that Democrats feel should be brought back to the United States because he's such a fine, innocent person. He's got that in quotation. They said he's not a member of MS-13, even though he's got MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles, and two highly respected courts found that he was a member of MS-13, beat his wife, etc. I was elected to take bad people out of the United States, among other things. I must be allowed to do my job, make America great again. Now, I want to show one thing here, if you can see right here on the knuckles, the MS-13, that is clearly photoshopped on there. Now, there are some people who would say that this is just to show that each one of these symbols means MS-13. I've heard that argument. However, I've also heard that MS-13 gang members absolutely tattoo it all over themselves and let it be known. So I really don't think that these are codes for that. That's just my opinion. I don't think they're codes for that. But that's definitely not it tattooed on his knuckles. That's clearly photoshopped. And yet there are people out there passing this around as though it's gospel. And if you think that's bad, I want to show you what the White House is sharing. What's truly sad is these people are now in charge, and they're sharing this type of crap from the official White House website. Take a look at this. They took a New York Times article and headline, and they said, fixed it for you, New York Times. Oh, and by the way, Chris Van Hollen, he's not coming back, referring to Garcia. Right here it says, look how Senator meet, the original headline said, Senator meets with wrongly deported Maryland man in El Salvador, but they marked out the word wrongly, marked out Maryland man, then put MS-13 illegal alien who's never coming back. This is the type of bullshit that is now being spread from the White House. I mean, this level of trolling is now being shared from the White House. It's absolutely disgusting, and it's truly embarrassing. And to all the people who watches this channel from around the world, and I get messages every day from people from all over the world, and they say they're sitting back watching in horror as this all unfolds. We are too. I think back to the campaign and all of the crazy cast of characters that Trump was bringing out, and I spent every minute I could exposing these crazy characters for the level of insanity they truly are at. And he was building his cabinet with these people. He went in and picked the absolute worst to head up every department, and it's truly disgusting. But there are so many false narratives out there. There are so many lies and misinformation. But I got to hand it to Jessica Tarlov over on Fox News. I don't know how she does her job. I'll just go ahead and say there's no way that I could ever sit there and do her job across the table from the people she sits across the table from, but she does try to at least bring the facts to Fox News. And maybe there's one grandma or one cousin sitting there watching it every day that's going, she's starting to make some sense. But she does try to bring the facts about Garcia in this next clip. Take a look.
Let's be very clear about this. The accusation of being MS-13 is based on a double hearsay testimony. They never followed up with it. And a detective who weeks later was indicted for sharing confidential information. His legal status, Abrego Garcia's, was approved by the Trump administration in 2019. And every year since then, he has checked in with the Department of Homeland Security. And nobody has said anything about him being a gangbanger.
Until he was?
No, not until anything.
He became a prop.
To this day. It's not about being a prop. There will be other senators that are looking into these, because it is reported that over 75% of the people that were on that plane have not been convicted of anything. And
so I applaud Jessica for trying to bring the facts to that group of trolls. I don't know how she does it every day. But, folks, again, this is about a man's due process. And it's about, if they can do it to one, they can do it to all. And I want to remind people there are a whole lot of others. It's not just Garcia. There are a whole lot of others who are now in El Salvador that are not getting their due process either. I'm glad to see this story is sticking around, and I'm glad to see more people covering it and talking about it. But there's a whole lot more people down there who deserve their due process too. So if we can start with Garcia and get him his, maybe we can work at getting the others theirs as well. And that's all it is that we're wanting to see. It's truly a shame to sit back and watch the President of the United States, the President of El Salvador, and all of their followers sit and twist and just distort this entire narrative. But we're always going to be here trying to make sense of it and bringing the story to the people. So I truly do appreciate your all support here on the channel. And we're going to continue to cruise toward 1 million subscribers. So if you haven't already, be sure and hit that button. I truly appreciate all of your support. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And let's just keep fighting for democracy and fighting for the rights of every person in this country.